So, morning, everybody. I'm going to reverse order a little bit. I'm going to start off with this book. Let me show it to you. It is a gorgeous picture book. And you can see we're looking out the window at a snowman, just like Ed has behind him, the frozen Connecticut River. And this person has a teapot and they're pouring tea and lots of cookies. It's just so beautiful that, oh, and I see Erin. Good morning, Erin. I wanted to start off with this, all right? And the very first opening, this book by Carl Sams and Jean Stock shows us two birds right there in the winter. And since we're in the midst of winter, and I'm sure any kind of wonderful feathered friends are important to us, I thought this would be appropriate. And it's like a glove tan with some grain, and the bird is actually perching. There's two hands perching right on those glove tans. So that's how birds can actually trust us that much. So here we go. It's called Tea with Lady Sapphire. And it's dedicated for those who protect wild places and care for our feathered friends. Sweet Child gazed out at the window, making circle clouds on the cold glass with her breath. Swirling snowflakes covered the grass and fell thick into the trees that began the woods. Her grandma was right. It was a perfect snow, a packing snow. The morning sun came up, gifting them with a crystal white snow globe whirl. And there's Sweet Child, the little girl, and she's blowing circles on the panes of glass. And there's the outside of her window, and you can see the deer and the snow that's beginning to cover the evergreen tree, like a miniature Christmas tree, right? The phone jangled. We have a mission, Sweet Child, Graham's voice sang out. Our feathered friends are expecting us. And as you know, a doer's deed must get done. Bring little Squirt and make sure he's had it up. We need to get on with his education. With chatter and laughter and brightly covered mittens, they shaped their snowman just outside the breakfast window. So little Squirt must be Sweet Child's brother. And there the two children are with their mittens. And boy, that's a pretty large snowman. Oh, he's got on a red wool hat and a carrot nose. It looks like walnuts for eyes. The three of them filled an old floppy-eared hat with nuts and seeds and placed it on the snowman's head. Graham planted a fallen birch log into the snow and stuffed the cavities with suet. The last of the feeding stations was complete. Job well done. Look who's here already. It's our upside-down bird, the white-breasted nuthatch, Sweet Child pointed out. And there's the nuthatch upside down on the birch tree. Okay. And there's the snowman, and they're putting seeds right into the top of his woolen hat. Okay. And here he is. So they're making the snowman into a feeding station. And in his hand, okay, he's carrying some suet. Okay. So he is all ready to feed the birds, and they're beginning to come. This is our tradition, little Squirt, nodded Graham, pouring her tea. Welcome to our club. Toot, 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 Mr. Toot, those snickerdoodle cookies are not for you. Winter is a difficult season, and we take care of our feathered friends, Graham explained. Keep an eye out for Lady Sapphire. She'll land on the old hemlock looking for bugs and beetles. She's a pileated woodpecker, a very large woodpecker. So that's what Graham is talking about. Let me see if I can get the picture. There's Miss Sapphire. Very, very large woodpecker. And she's pecking the bark so she can look for beetles and bugs underneath the bark. And there's Graham talking. She's pouring the tea, and she's got a pile of snickerdoodles. And that is the cat that she's referring to right there. Maybe wanting to get a snickerdoodle for herself. Mr. Tut's tail twitched and thumped on his special perch as the first guest flitted in. The chickadee flew his crooked path to land on the snowman's nose. There's Mama's favorite bird, the chickadee, Squirt grinned. Yes, Graham agreed, and he's the friendliest of all the birds. It's no surprise that he's the first one to greet our snowman. And there's the chickadees, right on top of the carrot and right on top of the hat. Okay. Uh-oh, there's Mr. Tut. There's the cat watching the birds come. Okay. And as they said, Mr. Chickadee is the first one to arrive. Look at that red bird, chirped Squirt. Oh, well, he's the male cardinal and such a show-off red, Graham replied. The male birds are usually the flashy ones, and those blue jays are as bold as brass, Graham exclaimed. Some people think that they're bullies, said Sweet Child. Yes, but they have a job to do, continued Graham. The jays will sound an alarm, warning all the birds when a hawk soars above. Okay, so here's the cardinal that Graham was talking about. Okay, and there's the blue jay. Whoop, get it focused in on the feeder right here. All right, and there's another blue jay flying in. The blue jays are going to be warning the birds if there's a hawk circling ahead. Sweet Child smiled at the tufted titmouse. The wings are like an angel, she whispered. I'm going to show you this picture. There's the tufted titmouse right there. You can see why she's saying that wings are like an angel's. Oh, look, it's a woodpecker. Is that her? Is that Lady Sapphire? Interrupted Squirt. No, not yet, Squirt. That's our red-bellied woodpecker with red on her head, but only a touch on her belly, Graham smiled. Okay, so there's the woodpecker that they're talking about. Okay. Okay, let me see. Red-bellied, red on her head. Okay, so there's her head, and it's that little red mark right there. So that's who they're calling. Nope, they're looking for Lady Sapphire. We're going to have to watch for her too. Oh, I see the red on her belly, piped up little Squirt. I'm really good at this. I know you are, said Graham. You have eyes like an eagle. Okay, I see the red on her belly. Okay, so there's the woodpecker. The woodpecker's flying and there's something in their mouth. I'm trying to get this picture closer to you. Okay. And look, Sweet Child pointed out, there's my tufted titmouse. He looks so different when he's perched on a branch. Okay, there's a tufted titmouse, and the wings are not spread out, and she's absolutely right. Definitely looks different without those wings, angel wings. But watching for birds, you have to be noticing all the details. It's a berry bandit, sang out Sweet Child. A flock of smooth, feathered cedar waxwings glided in and landed on the snowdrift crab tree. They plucked all those berries in no time, Graham said to them. And there they are, the wax wings. Got a berry right in the mouth. There they are, among the berries. Wow. I think we're learning a lot about different birds, you guys. On a lower branch hung a thistle feeder with many perches. Thistle is the goldfinch's favorite treat, Sweet Child explained. Mr. Goldfish wears his olive brown coat during winter instead of his summer yellow, added Graham. So there they are. Okay, there's a thistle feeder, and there's the little birds all cluttered around. The thistles are teeny, tiny, tiny, tiny little seeds. And there they are on top of the snowman's hat. Okay. So you remember, those are called the Gold Finches. Okay, look closely. That hairy and downy woodpecker, they're almost alike, Graham noted. The hairy is much bigger than the little downy. And look at that hairy's red cap. That's how you can tell it's a male bird. The ladies don't wear a red cap. Okay, we're gonna have to check it out. So there's his red cap right here. So that means he's a guy, he's a man woodpecker. And there's the other one. A red-breasted nuthatch landed on the hat too. As a little red squirrel stole another nut from the snowman's face. Oh, that little red squirrel. That little red squirrel is eating Mr. Snowman's face. There he is, right on top of the carrot. Oh my goodness. Those red squirrels and any kind of squirrels and birds get along. They don't seem to care. We watch him take one nut and then another until there were no more left. He is sitting right on top of Mr. Snowman's hat. Oh my goodness. He ate all the nuts, but not the seeds. That nut thief will keep us busy replacing nuts all day long, laughed Graham. And there's the little bird, a little chickadee. She's waiting for that squirrel to get off the hat so she can take a turn. It's that, Lady Sapphire, Grammy, squirrel called out as a new visitor snatched a kernel of corn. Not yet, she answered. That's our red-headed woodpecker, and he's a rare one. Good spot. Here he comes. Definitely, his whole head is red. A trio of crows watched them from above. The crows like corn too, added Sweet Child. And there are the three crows. They don't seem to be as intimidating as they look like. The gentle morning doves and the gray juncos pecked at the scattered corn and seed. Even the turkey strutted by with her slow step to gobble up the seeds that were on the ground. And there's Mr. Turkey. Uh-oh, am I getting it up? There he is. There he is. Okay. Okay. And there, morning doves right on the ground, picking up the seeds that have fallen from the feeder. There's Lady Sapphire, that polka-dotted bird hooted Squirt. Graham chuckled. No, that's a flicker. Sometimes they come to the feeder, but they'd rather eat bugs. I like bugs too, smiled Squirt. The jays were resting in the snowy branches when a large shape swooped down from the treetops. Ooh, shouted Squirt, pointing at the tall evergreens at the edge of the woods. Look at that big bird. Okay, so polka dot, that's a flicker. Okay, right there. And there are the blue jays, both of them. Okay, let's see what that big bird Squirt is seeing. Oh, it's her. It is Lady Sapphire, in for a landing, Graham laughed. And look, there's a second pileated woodpecker waiting for her on the tree. Do you see him? Now, that's not your mama's chickadee, Graham crowed. Pick up your binoculars. Do you see his red mustache? Can you see the difference? Okay, he's got right here on the peak, you guys, there's what it's called, the red mustache. And there he is, right up there. Okay, these are large woodpeckers. When you see one, you won't forget you've ever seen it again. Lady Sapphire has a mate. It's time for a toast. Raise your teacups and welcome Mr. Succotash with his handsome red mustache. And there's Graham and Sweet Child and Squirt, and they're having a toast of their tea. And there's the two woodpeckers. Okay, there's Mr. Mustache. So, and Lady Sapphire, and they have found each other. Welcome, friends. Welcome to our backyard. I don't know if anyone has a bird feeder, but here's one right here that's covered with all the birds that we were talking about. The bird feeder and that snowman, and then a birch log. How long will we feed the birds? Squirt asked. Sweet Child answered just the way Graham would, until the frogs sing and the trees grow new leaves. Their snowmen came and went with the warm weather, and like always, they would wait for the next perfect snow. Uh-oh, there's Mr. Snowman. All right, guys, he's collapsed. And down in Tennessee, he wouldn't last even as long as we've got him up here. Okay, but he will come again. We will meet again, my little circle of friends. It's our tradition and our duty, Graham explained, tipping Mr. Tut from his chair. Raise your teacups to our feathered friends. And there you can see Mr. Tut reaching for one of the last snickerdoodles. And Graham tipped him from the chair. And there's the very end of the book, the end, written in snow. Okay, that was just something so beautiful. I was too anxious to share it to you. All right. Our second book is a very short chapter book. Won't be able to finish it today, but we'll start it. And it's a very unusual story about a small child that was wishing for something that she thought was impossible. But let's see, it's called The Ark in the Park. All right, Ark in a park. That seems like a contradictory term, right? I'm going to check the time, just be sure that we don't go over. Okay, I've got time because I want to talk about these two books. And it's written by Wendy Orr and illustrated, oh, there he goes. Okay, by Carrie Millard. And the chapters are very short, so and lots of illustrations. It was the biggest, the strangest, and the most wonderful pet shop in the whole world. After all, said Mrs. Noah, with a name like ours, what other kind of shop could we have? And after all, said Mr. Noah, with a name like ours, how else could we build it? So this is Mr. and Mrs. Noah, okay? They own a pet store in the city.
Got a message.
So they built it like a ship and they called it Noah's Ark. It filled 2 whole blocks of the city they lived in. And instead of rocking on the deep blue sea, it sat in the middle of a wide green park. It had tall sails made of white glass. Birds nestled high up in the mast and sang and swooped back and forth and up and down inside the sails. It had 7 different levels so that animals who didn't like each other didn't have to see each other. And there's the ark. Okay, and there's the buildings around it. And there is an illustration of how large this thing is. Remember, it is a pet store. And right on the bow, there's a unicorn's head. Okay. That has got to be unusual. There were ponies and lambs and cats and dogs and rabbits and turtles and every other kind of pet in the world. Well, we wanted to have lions and elephants, said Mrs. Noah, but they're not really practical pets. Not very safe for children, said Mr. Noah. And they were both sad for a moment because they didn't have any children. Of course, said Mr. Noah, if we had children, they'd be grown up by now. Oh, well, then we would have grandchildren, said Mrs. Noah. We have everything else we've ever wished for, Mr. Noah said. Some things are just not possible. And there's Mr. Noah, some of his animals, and there's Mrs. Noah with some of the very little animals. Okay. But every night, Mr. and Mrs. Noah wished one impossible wish. They wish they had grandchildren. They are sitting together and they're imagining their grandchild outside. Okay, and they're imagining themselves lifting their grandchild high up in the air because it's such a sweet dream. Chapter 2. The city where Mr. and Mrs. Noah lived was very, very big and very busy. All around the ark, as far as you could see, were tall, tall buildings. One of the very tallest was an apartment building, and in the apartment building at the very cloudscaping top lived Sophie. At the bottom of the building was a road, but it was a very, very long way down. And on the other side of the road was the park. But Sophie was not allowed to go there alone. Her mother said she was too young to cross the road, and her father said the park was too dangerous. It's so big, you could get lost, he said, and you wouldn't know anyone who could help you. But her mother was always busy with the new twins, and her father was always busy at work. So they hardly ever had time to take Sophie to the park. And there she is, you guys. She's way at the top. Okay, she's looking way down. You see that drawing? All the cars way below her. The people in the apartment near Sophie and her family went out to work all day and didn't have children. There were girls around her age who lived on the second floor, but they visited their grandparents or their cousins in the country every weekend. Sophie's mother and father came from a country a long way away, and Sophie didn't have grandparents or aunts or uncles to visit. She didn't have cousins to call on the phone or visit on holidays. At school, she tried not to hear when the other children talked about going to the zoo with their grandparents or picnics and pillow fights with her cousins. Okay, so there's Sophie by herself. And there's her friends talking about all the fun they're having with other kids. When she was not at school, Sophie spent most of her time looking out of the window and wishing. She watched people walking in the park and children playing. She watched them picking grass for their guinea pigs, playing ball with their dogs, and riding their ponies. But most of all, she watched the Noah's Ark. From her window, the great glass sails looked like real sails filled with wind. And if she half closed her eyes and rocked on her seat, she could imagine that it really was a ship at sea. "What are you watching, Sophie?" her mother would ask. "Nothing," Sophie would always answer. And there she is, looking at Noah's Ark. You can see the sails coming up. Okay, one more page, and we're going to stop and get to chapter 3. All right. Every night, Sophie made 2 impossible wishes. She wished for a pet, and she wished for cousins. But then she made a 3rd wish that was not quite impossible. Sophie wished she could visit Noah's Ark. And there she is, looking out the window. Okay, so I'm going to close the book, and that will give us some time to talk about what we just read. All right, thank you.
Well, Bobby, I noticed there were a few messages in the chat box that I wanted to tell everyone. Is that Travis said that they have robins all the way down there in Tennessee, which I think is really amazing because we have them up here too, don't we?
Yeah, we sure do. Oh, thanks, Travis.
Yeah, and it's a sign of spring, though.
Yes.
So
yeah, I haven't seen our robins, and I can't wait to see them. Kate?
It's still recording.
Oh, thank you.